Hello there everybody and welcome back to more Planet Coaster Sandbox mode. So we're back here in our park here and I'm just hanging out by the entrance as I wanted to have a quick look at what this looks like from the guest camera view. So let's see if we can click on this as they're walking in the park here, and it doesn't look like we can actually do that just yet. Oh, they must have to actually get in the park to do that. So let's kind of just follow this lady through here. And yeah, looks pretty nice. It's actually beginning to be nighttime, which is kind of cool, I guess. We'll get to see what it looks like at night as well. I haven't done too much lighting, but you will see what I have been doing in between episodes once we get through here. Okay, so let's go down here. And as you can see, I've done a bunch more planting and stuff. I did a load more of that. I've trimmed up the curb as well and done all that, and I finished this guy off that we were working on in the last episode, and I did a bunch more of these apartments and I'm really loving this. Yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out, and this is quite the traffic jam here as well, isn't it? Everybody's bumping into each other, but yeah, as you can see here, I did a bunch of these guys and I'm really happy with how they've turned out. Actually, I love the little stoops that we've given them and the brickwork and the variety there. It's just awesome. And I did a bit more on the road here. I've put up some lamp posts, a few trees in the sidewalk here, and I think it just looks really great. I did some more on the crossings as well. I think the crossings look really nice now. I did a bunch on the road as well, as you should be able to see from here, but we'll zoom out in a sec and you get to see that. And yeah, I think it looks really cool. It doesn't look like this person wants to buy any food, but it'll give us another look. And look at that red luscious tree. That looks really nice, that tree. But I'm really happy with this and how it turned out. And yeah, we've even got the fire exits on there as well. Fire escape ladders. So yeah, it's cool. It's really got that kind of New York City theme going for it. And, you know, it's definitely got that feel that I really wanted to do in this park. So if we just head in here like this, we'll come out of that mode, and if I come up like this, then yeah, you can see what I've been doing here. Like I say, I've done a bunch on the roads here, and I've kind of changed the layout very slightly. And basically what I did here is, you'll have noticed when the person came in there, is they actually walked straight down here and then turned right and went up here, whereas before I can't remember whether we actually pressed play in the last episode or not. In fact, no, we didn't do, because we only had this building, didn't we? So previously, when I first started building this, these things, and I put these shops down here, I'll just pause it. Previously, the guests were coming in the main entrance here, and because their AI tells them to take the shortest route possible, what they were doing is they were walking in more or less a diagonal line from, say, this entrance here. They were walking in a diagonal line straight across there like that. And that's okay, but just to give it more of a realistic feel, like this is actually the pavement here, and this is a road in the middle, what I did was I took out this first sort of strip of path here, this first strip of road path. And as a result, they now have to walk around the edge, which gives that really cool sort of roadside feel to it. So I'm really happy with that. And I think it's going to look pretty cool once it's all fully done out. And I think the way that we're going to build things as well is actually going to... It's still going to look like this is actually the road as well, which I'm really looking forward to. And like I say, I did a bunch of sort of foliage in the middle of the road. I actually changed the thickness here in the middle of the road. I made it much narrower, just because I think that it works better, to be honest with you. It looks nicer, and yeah, I mean, it makes more sense, to be honest with you. My initial thoughts was that I didn't want so much kind of empty space, but I mean, I think it still works, even... You know, if some of this area is going to be more or less completely empty, I still think it works because you've got the road markings on there, and yeah, I think it looks cool. So what we're going to do in this episode is we're more or less finished with these guys. I haven't really done the side here. I did a little bit on the side, And I think actually some of you may or may not recognize this block on the end here. It's apparently quite a famous apartment block. I realized after I'd built it. I didn't realize this, but it's... I think it's actually something to do with Sex and the City, that TV show. I've never watched it myself, so I don't really know, but apparently that's in New York, and that is what this looks like, roughly. But I like the look of it, and I thought it would be a nice kind of way to get in, like a little shop at the bottom here. So I did that, and on the tops, I'm not entirely sure whether we should do much detailing or not. Obviously, the guest's never going to see that. We are, but... Again, looking on maps of New York from the sky, there isn't really that much on top of the apartment blocks. There's, maybe these guys, so I put them on there. And along with that, there's really not that much else. I mean, on top of the skyscrapers and stuff like that, on top of the really tall buildings, you will get a few bits and bats. But on top of the apartment blocks, there's really not that much. I mean, there isn't even really access doors for people to get out on the roof. So I think we're just going to leave it like that for now. If you guys have got any suggestions, I'd love to hear them for the roofs there. And yeah, I think it looks really cool apart from that. So yeah, I mean, I'd love to hear your guys' opinion on it. And I think it really adds to the area. So, like I say, what we're going to do in this episode is we're going to do a bit more scenery building work. And we're going to build another block over here. These are going to be apartments on this side, but it's going to be one big block as opposed to 4 sort of individual apartment towers within a block, if that makes sense. So there's going to be a few, just one big kind of complex, I guess. But this is going to be like a more kind of luxury complex that I've looked at, and we're going to have some kind of penthouses at the top. And I think it should look pretty cool. I think even though it is just sounding like it's going to be a big box, I think we should be able to add enough detail to it so it doesn't look quite so boxy. And I think that's going to fill out this area nicely. And then just going forwards, I don't know if I mentioned this or not in the first episode or not, but what the plan is for this street is we're going to kind of start with kind of apartment style buildings here. And then this next block is going to be 2 or well, it depends what we can fit in, but we're going to have some kind of taller buildings here, more kind of like skyscraper style buildings, and I've got a couple of cool ones in mind for that. And then at the end, we're going to have a big sort of centerpiece for the park that you'll probably be able to see. You'll probably be able to see from anywhere in the park, so I'm really looking forward to doing that one, and I'm going to leave that one as a surprise, so you guys will have to stay tuned to find out what that's going to be. So then, let's have a look at putting down some foundations for the what we're going to build in this episode. Okay then, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to be using the red bricks. As I mentioned previously, that's going to be one of the key building bits that we use for this park. And let's see here, let's have a look. We could potentially use the modern brick, or we could use the classic brick. So let's have a look at this. Let's see. Can you change the color of this guy? You can. Yeah, that was something that they changed from the beta. Something I really didn't like about this brick was that it's like super orange. So if you have a look at that, and then I put next to it this guy. Look how sort of orange this is. So yeah, I mean, it's not ideal, but I think they must have changed the color of it slightly, or the texture. It does look a bit duller than what it did do previously. It looked so bright before, it almost didn't look like brick. But now it looks okay. So I think we may use this one, because this is going to be a more kind of modern luxury suite of apartments. And I think that color might be alright. I think we might just darken it a little bit. But let's just get this properly laid out first of all. So, like the ones over on this side, I think we're going to leave a bit of a gap along the edge like this, so that we can put some shops there, and it's going to have a little bit of a queue if needs be, so it's just not right next to the curb here. And let me just have a think about this for a sec. I do wonder if they're going to kind of change that so it doesn't make stuff look so crazy bright. Like, look at these lines in the middle of the road. Look how bright that is. It's crazy. Anyway, so yeah, let's get into this. Now, I think it's going to be this pillar that's going to be the first thing we place down. And let's just go in here and make sure it's fully square to the pavement here. There we go. I think that's about right. Lovely stuff. Okay, so... Alright, so that's not actually snapping to the grid. I thought these guys did snap to the grid, so... We're going to have to put down a different piece first of all. We'll put down this wall and then we'll just kind of get rid of it once we've got the grid in place. So, that guy can go there. And that starts us off with a grid. And what we'll do is we'll just rotate that. But in fact, just while we're talking about grids, there's one little tip that I wanted to give you guys. And I don't know if you will have figured this out or not yet, but something quite cool. Now, you may have noticed once you're placing down, if you place down a bunch of scenery items. So say, for instance, you're making like, you're putting down a bunch of rocks and things like that. Okay? And say if you're wanting to repeat this a lot of times, so like I did down here, this is more or less the same thing over and over and over again. What you can't do is, if you just go from the scenery tab and just place them down, you can't actually select these all together and then duplicate them easily. I mean, you can save it as a blueprint, but that's not the best solution. And then you can only move them or advance move them, which is, again, it's not the greatest. You can't go at advance move and duplicate, which is really one of the most, useful tools really for making sure everything's fully lined up and when you duplicate and stuff like that. So, what is a good thing to do is if you actually go into the building tab, and this is something I actually first learned of from another video by... I can't quite remember the YouTuber's name. I think it was Silverette, I think. Basically what you do is you get a piece, like I usually use this castle arch support because it's usually the first thing that comes up that is gridded. It works on a grid, so you can see this grid pattern behind the icon. You click on that and then you click that. And then, sorry, you don't do that. You click on that and then you sink it into the ground like that so you can't see it. And then that starts actually a building for you. It starts, see how it says editing building. So now what you can do is you can actually place down all your bits and bats as part of this building. And then not only can you then, while you're editing the building, select these guys in isolation to everything else. So you can see now if I do this, it's not selecting anything else. It's just selecting what's within this building. Not only that, you can actually, when you click done here, you can go on here and you can go duplicate. So you can duplicate that quite easily. Or you can go advanced move and duplicate. And you can move it around like that instead. And I thought that was just a really little handy way when you're working with a lot of scenery items to duplicate and move them around. And it's been really indispensable for what I've been doing here. For this pavement, for example, these little bits that I've put all the way along here, well, to be honest, I actually realized this tip after I did the pavements because I placed these down all manually and then I went through and selected them all using this. Just went through and selected each one like this by holding control and then I saved them as a blueprint and then I've been putting them down like that. But what I did for these guys, these fences, I actually see how this is all a building. So what I could do is I could literally just duplicate that and then drag it along here with the advanced move tool. And then it would be perfectly aligned up with that fence down there. And it just makes things totally, a lot easier than what it would be, if you just kind of placed it down like I did here. You go here and then you select these all. And then you go create a blueprint and then you've got to go new blueprint. You've got to name it and then you've got to... go back out of this, then come back in here and place it down. It's just a lot easier and neater to actually create a building first and then do it that way. It just seems a lot simpler. So that's a good tip for you. If you've not learned that already, you know, hopefully you learned something new with that. So we're going to carry on here with this guy, and I'm going to just make sure this guy's nicely lined up here, just so we don't have to fiddle around with the full building when it's complete, because that can be a little bit tedious when you're playing with so many pieces. I think that's good. Yeah, okay. So that's good. Now we're going to go back in here and edit the building. So what I'd like to do first of all is, like I say, we're not going to have this wall here, but I'm actually going to move it back here to where it is going to be. And that's going to be like that. And I'm not sure if that's actually going to be brick in the end, but we're certainly going to have some walls there. So we're going to then move over to, we're going to put the filter back on. And then we're going to come in here. And we're going to select this pillar. I think this pillar is going to be the corner bit. So we're going to place this just about there. Now I think what would be an idea is actually, because this is a corner pillar, we want it to look quite kind of large, I guess, to put it bluntly. And we're going to do 4 of these guys. Like this. I think that looks okay. And then the idea that I had was that we're going to bring these guys over like so. And we're going to do this kind of as we go along like this. And then we're going to get these guys and we're going to take them up to the next floor. Like this. And then what the walls are going to be comprised of is, I think we're going to use these glass walls. So I think possibly just this one. And then what we can do is that kind of sinks in between those. And it kind of hides that black edge on it. So we can put that guy there. And I think that looks okay. I might play with that a bit, but I think that's what we're going to end up doing. So we're going to end up kind of repeating this guy down here. And then so on like this. And there's obviously not going to be a gap in the middle because I'm going to come in here and just do that as well. And that's going to kind of form the outside of the building. And then obviously there's going to be floors and things put in as well. I think that's going to be the bulk of it. And then on the top of the building, you'll see this in a moment anyway. But I think I'm going to just use these on their own and kind of make a like a penthouse kind of top area to the building. I hope this is making sense, but yeah, so that's it. We're gonna actually go into a time lapse here, so you guys can still watch what's going on. So yeah, that's it then. I'll see you guys in a few moments. Okay then, guys, so I think we're pretty much there with this build. I'm really happy with it, actually. It's turned out loads better than what I initially thought it might. And yeah, I think it looks really nice. I think it looks high-end. I was a bit kind of set back initially when I first started doing it because we couldn't use that modern brick. And we did have to go with the classic brick instead. But I changed the color up of it so it was a little bit brighter. And I do think that it looks just a little bit nicer than, the standard colors, which is these. And, I mean, in fact, actually looking at these now, this building right here, yeah. Okay, no, actually, I can't remember whether I changed the color on this one or not, but it doesn't quite look the same as the default color. But anyway, I mean, those two look far more kind of gritty than this color anyway. So I'm pretty happy with that. I like it. And then I decided to go with this. This is actually called the panel walling. I believe it's actually plastic that our building is made of here. But I guess it could be, it could be a curtain wall. So it doesn't really matter that it's made of plastic because, in reality, a building like this would have a frame on the inside anyway. And then I ended up using, a bunch of detail parts that I didn't think I would use. Like, for example, this metal piece here. This it's pretty hard to select, but let's see if I can get one down here. This piece right here. That piece. Now, I thought that added a nice bit of detail. Like, I added it in initially, and it showed through the other piece. And I didn't really want it to. But then when I added it all in, I actually decided that it looked like a nice bit of detail. So I kept that. I think that looks nice. And then I actually kind of uncovered and I guess got used to a lot of the weird nuances with the building system in this game. And you may have noticed in the time-lapse me, when I was back around this corner and I was playing with this wooden flooring, I really wanted this wooden flooring in, but I just couldn't get it to work. Because you may have noticed in the time-lapse that when I initially put it down, if I just move this piece right here and I rotate it and I put it back, you can see that it's showing through there. But then I was playing around with it and somehow I realized, hang on a minute. I think I put in this whole wall and I didn't realize straight away, but I realized after I was doing some of the bits around here. And I realized that all you have to do is rotate it and it doesn't show through. Which is really quite cool. But also another weird thing as well is if I get this piece and I move this piece and then I rotate this, you can see it kind of shows through when it's in a certain rotation. So it's showing through there. It's showing through there, but it doesn't show through. Oh, okay. Well, it wasn't showing through like this before, which is a shame. But I don't know. Maybe that is a bug. Oh, there we go. So I just moved the wall again, and it's kind of not showing through anymore. So that's a little weird thing that I found, and I honestly thought I was going to have to move all of these walls out by just this one little click to get that flooring in. Luckily, I didn't have to do that. But that's another strange thing as well. You'll notice with sort of grid-snapped objects, if you press move, then you can just move it kind of... If it's on the edge of a grid piece, which it is going to be if it's a grid snap piece most of the time, you can kind of snap it between two different adjacent squares like that. And what I noticed is if you select multiple pieces like this, and then you try and move it, you can only move it by a full square at a time. Which is actually quite annoying because it makes it difficult to make large, moves if you need to. You have to just delete the pieces and then, move them individually like that. So I'm glad I didn't have to do that anyway. But again, that's just another little thing to watch out for if you are doing that. And along with that, I noticed as well something that's worked actually quite well for this is if you're using some scenery objects like this that don't snap to the grid, what you can do is if you place down what I was doing, I was duplicating this window and pulling it out here, and then I was selecting that and then selecting these guys as well. And then when I duplicate that, this selection is now snapped to the grid. So I can place it down really quite quickly when I'm moving stuff around. And it works really well, rather than what you could do otherwise is select all these and you could go on advanced duplicate and move, which is all good and well. And, it works, but then you've got to kind of rotate it round. You can have angle snapping on, so it's a bit more accurate, and then you've got to do this, and then you've got to kind of put it back in like that. And I find that when it's snapped to the grid, you can do it much faster. You can rotate it quicker, and you can just do it all much faster, and it works a lot better doing it that way. So that's another thing I'd advise you to, perhaps look at doing if you're doing any large builds that have a lot of repetitive parts. But yeah, like I say, I mean, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. It does look nice and upmarket. I've added the foliage in as well, just to add a little bit more depth to it. And, it kind of emulates some of the stuff that I have seen in New York. And, yeah, I really like it. I definitely have got a few bits to sort of clean up and finish up in between episodes. I am going to do a little bit more detailing on it, and I was really adamant about putting in this wood flooring, and the reason for that is because I want to do a bit more detailing up here. I want to put maybe some chairs or something like that, just so it kind of looks like, this is the deck of somebody's house, and they may come out here, and maybe we'll put in some doors as well up here, so it looks like there's kind of an exit out onto here. But yeah, apart from that, I'm really happy with it. It looks really nice, and we've got this big penthouse up top, and it kind of cuts in like that. And yeah, I love the depth to it, and I feel like it's really awesome, to be honest. I think what I might do as well is, I think this is probably something for the next episode. I think we're gonna open this out and put a little bit of an inside area, I think, where we can put some toilets. I think that would be a good place to do that. I just thought that would be just another way to kind of, add a bit more variety to the builds. And, yeah, I'd love to work on a kind of an internal area as well. And I did put these shops in here, so I'm not sure if they're actually going to work. I did sink the building down into the ground a little bit, so I could get this this concrete down here to line up with the pavement. So I'm not sure how this is going to work, but what I have done is I've lined it up with this crossing here. So hopefully what we'll see is once people come in here and they go to that, then hopefully they'll walk across the crossing, and that is really what I want to see here. I want to see them walking straight across that, or they can walk in this way and come up here and then go to the shops and then walk across the crossing that way. That's what I'm really hoping will happen here, because that would be so cool if it does that. Because, I mean, obviously we can't guide them across this area with the pathfinding because there's no path piece that looks like this. But yeah, so this is how we've got to do it. So let's see. I'd be interested to see, first of all, if they can actually use these shops, and two, like I say, if they use the crossing. So let's have a look at that now. I'm going to unpause it. There we go. So it's unpaused, and let's see what happens here. So, oh, look at that. Oh, some people have gone across the road there, but not many, and they're doing it. That's awesome. Look at this. I'm going to have to get a screenshot of this right here. Sorry, I'm just kind of getting screenshots. Oh, look at this guy. He's been to the hat shop and he's bought a hat. That is awesome. Oh, so people can actually get to these shops. That's fantastic. Obviously, there's no use for the information booth right now. That's where you buy your priority pass. Everybody wants a hat, though. Everybody wants a hat. Look at this guy with the hat. And that is just fantastic. Let's see what options you have on here. Because I was playing around in career mode earlier on, and there are a bunch of options that you can do on the shops that I totally didn't realize. Ah, there we go. So there's a few different options there. That's fantastic. Awesome stuff. I love it. I'm so pleased with how this has turned out. And yeah, it's just fantastic. But anyway, this episode has actually been quite long now, so when I'm editing this, I may have to cut out some sections in the in the start of the episode. I did kind of ramble on a little bit with a few different bits and bats that perhaps don't need to be in here. So if there's a little bit that you feel like is kind of been missed in the episode, then it's because I wanted to mainly show the time lapse. That was the main feature of this episode. I wanted to show that, and I wanted to show afterwards, and I wanted to have this talk afterwards as well. So, if you feel like a little bit is being missed out, then that's why. I'll try and keep it all in if I can do, but, if I've not been able to, then, that's why. So, I'm going to leave it there. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you've enjoyed this episode. I've really enjoyed it, and I can't wait to do some more bits and bats around this place. Even with just that building there, it's already starting to really come together here, and we've got a nice bit of variety going on here, and while all still fitting to the same sort of theme, I think, anyway. I mean, if you think this looks too out of place, then let me know, but I think it looks okay, to be honest with you. So, yeah, I'm really happy with it, and like I say, thanks again for watching. So if you like this video, do leave a like down below to let me know that you did like it. I'd really appreciate that, and if you, if you liked it even more, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. I'm covering both Planet Coaster career mode, and we're doing this this park in Sandbox mode. This is probably going to be quite a big project going on for quite some time, and I will be moving on to the sort of scenarios mode in, or I think it's called challenge mode actually, in Planet Coaster once I've done the career. So once again, thank you so much for watching, and if you've missed any episodes, check the playlist in the description or on the end screen to go back and check on some. But once again, I've repeated myself a ton of times here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.